Through time, space, cool culture, farming, infrastructure, and daily life, Song Ning has traveled to the ancient times where there was a famine, where her family couldn't eat enough or wear warm clothes, and a group of top-notch relatives were waiting to see her joke. In the middle of the night, the roof was blown away by the wind, and Song Ning couldn't bear it anymore. Laugh to death, I have space in my hands, can I be seen as derogatory? So, the villagers found that yesterday the Song family's big house stewed chicken, today the Song family's big house ate braised pork belly in brown sauce, and tomorrow the Song family's big house will move into a new house. She eats meat when others eat bran, and she cools down when others are hungry. Those relatives who looked down upon them in the past came to visit, and the neighbors and villagers have become better. Even the original owner's beloved has changed his mind. Song Dynasty. Chapter 1. The Beginning of Hell. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yunyang, it seems that Arya is out of breath. How could it be? Arya. My daughter. The next second, there was a wailing sound in my ear. At this moment, the person on the bed suddenly opened their eyes. The room instantly quieted down. Song Ning looked at the person in front of the bed with a splitting headache. The woman in front of her looked only in her 30s. What did she just call her? Arya, you're awake. She almost spurted out a mouthful of old blood. Arya, are you okay? The two of them in front of her looked like they were only in their 30s. Is it appropriate to call her daughter? Suddenly, memories that didn't belong to her flooded into her mind. Song Ning froze. Is there a mistake? She is a successful modern urban woman who has now dressed up as a flower addict. The owner of this body, who has been obsessed with Zhou Ling'an, the youngest son of the village head's family since childhood, unfortunately, Zhou Ling'an looked down on her and repeatedly refused, but these two girls were just persistent and persistent. Now that Zhou Ling'an has become a scholar again, his identity is even different. How could he be attracted to a little girl like the original owner who wants nothing? For the sake of Zhou Ling'an, the original owner and family also had a very unpleasant scene. She blamed Zhou Ling'an's lack of respect for herself on her family and complained about why her parents did not give her a good family and why they were not wealthy. If that were the case, they would be in perfect harmony. But I never thought about whether I was worthy or not. In order to marry Zhou Ling'an, he even resorted to using his own reputation to force Zhou Ling'an to commit a crime. The original owner wanted to show her disheveled clothes with Zhou Ling'an in public, forcing Zhou Ling'an to marry her. However, Zhou Ling'an had already noticed her intentions and did not give her a chance to get close. She was still trying to catch up, but accidentally broke her head. The key is, these two girls are only 12 years old. When she was 12 years old, she was still playing with mud, and even her two daughters began to consider their own life matters. Previously, Arya's reputation was already notorious. Now, in order to rely on Zhou Ling'an, she broke her head, and everyone still doesn't know how to ridicule her from behind. Now, she has truly become the biggest joke in the whole village. The village is saying that she is a shameless girl and insists on sticking to her family. Now that this has happened, she deserves it. Song Ning closed her eyes and didn't want to face all of this. Arya, wake up. Don't scare your mother. The woman who called her daughter thought she had fainted again and shook her head desperately. Song Ning had a headache and had no choice but to open her eyes. Arya, you're okay. Lu Yuelan wept with joy. Song Ning sighed and then scanned the entire room. The low mud wall was made of wooden planks stacked on top of it, forming a thatched shed with a few pieces of wood on top. The thatched roof was leaking on all sides. The two people in front of them were also wearing tattered patched clothes, with yellow and thin faces, competing with the refugees on TV. This family only has the daughter of the original owner, who is doted on by Song Dehai and Lu Yuelan, so there is something good that cannot be kept. Once it enters the hands of the original owner, it is turned around and given to Zhou Ling'an. Previously, the father of the original owner fell and injured his leg up the mountain, which has not been well. He finally borrowed 1 or 2 silver from his relatives and is waiting to go to the town to see a doctor. But the result was stolen by these 2 girls and they bought a gift to give to Zhou Ling'an. As a result, Zhou Ling'an looked down on him and Song Ning delayed his treatment, leaving him with a limp. Song Ning Fui, the glorious deeds of Song area cannot be counted, they cannot be counted at all. She has not been kicked out of the house so far, it is truly a kind family. I'm thirsty, Song Ning said in a hoarse voice. Hey, Mom, I'll pour you some water now. Upon seeing her daughter speak, Lu Yuelon quickly brought a bowl of water and handed it over. Taking the bowl, I stared at it for a while. There were 5 gaps in one bowl, and if there was any more water, it would leak. But her throat was uncomfortable, and she didn't have to worry too much. Gudu poured a bowl of water in, and Song Ning felt that even her breathing was much smoother. Lu Yuelon was happy and said, Arya finally woke up. I'll go cook now. Although it's cooking, there's actually nothing to eat at home. There is only one wild vegetable picked from the mountain, and boiling it with water can make a meal, which can be considered as not starving. Song Ning looked at the bowl in front of her, which was black and emitting an unpleasant smell. Just looking at it makes me vomit. After hesitating for a long time and constantly protesting, Song Ning picked up the bowl and took a sip of the dark soup, almost crying. It's really too bad to eat. There is still an unknown wild vegetable stem mixed in the soup, making me scream. Song Ning controlled herself not to spit it out and swallowed it forcefully. I only took a few bites and couldn't swallow it. Suddenly, I looked up and saw Song Ning and Lu Yuelon sitting on the side, with nothing to eat. Song Ning was taken aback for a moment. What she despised was their daily sustenance. Putting down his chopsticks, he whispered, I'm full. Then he pushed the bowl forward. At times like this, the original owner is about to get angry and curse, and both husband and wife are watching her carefully. The corners of her mouth twitched slightly, and Song Ning sighed helplessly. Forget it, her image cannot be changed in a short while. Standing up, Song Ning walked towards the outside of the house and said calmly, I'll go out for a walk. I walked straight out of the yard and only then did I see what this home was like. She is currently living in a thatched cottage in the middle that also serves as a kitchen. There are 2 rooms on either side, one piled up with miscellaneous items, and the other is where Song Ning and his wife sleep. The wind blew, and the thatched roof was on the verge of collapse. Even the walls of the yard were inserted with dry branches one by one, and a simple door was finally made. There was some firewood piled up in the corner of the yard, and besides that, the entire yard had nothing but soil. What exactly is this, the beginning of hell? Song Ning carefully moved the door that was about to fall apart and walked out. Nanshan village is surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, with only a flat valley to the east. The river that passes through Nanshan village has long dried up. In recent years, the harvest in Nanshan village has been poor, and the best ones can only make ends meet. Many families like the Fong family have no food reserves and can only rely on wild vegetables to make a living. Sigh, what kind of evil did she do in her previous life, that God punished her for coming here? As we walked further away, the entire village was bare except for the mountains which were slightly green. According to Arya's memory, Nanshan village, including several nearby villages, has had poor harvests in recent years. In previous years, there were still some crops that could be planted. Last year and this year, there was a drought, and the crops died from the drought. Everyone's life was difficult, and for the sake of a meal, relatives gradually lost contact with each other. Song Ning looked at the green mountains not far away and decided to take a look. She couldn't swallow the wild vegetables just now. If she didn't find something to eat, she probably wouldn't be able to resist tonight. It's still early now, coupled with a headache, she walked a bit slower. I don't know if it was because the heavens saw her pitiful or because of her conscience. Soon after entering the mountain, Song Ning saw a rabbit. I just managed to catch the rabbit, but before I could be happy, I made a mistake. It's really inconvenient to bring back such a big rabbit. If the people in the village saw her, they might have swallowed her alive. If only I could take it back unnoticed, Song Ning muttered to herself. As soon as the words fell, the rabbit in his arms suddenly disappeared in place. Chapter 2. Climbing the Mountain. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Song Ning was surprised. Where is her rabbit? What about a rabbit that big like her? Just as she was puzzled, she closed her eyes and found herself in a strange place. On the green grassland, rabbits are happily eating. Did ghosts hit the wall? But the environment here is beautiful and doesn't seem very similar. Turning around, Song Ning realized that it seemed like a closed space and she couldn't get out. But the rabbit we just caught is still here, with fresh air and even a spring eye. Suddenly, an idea came to mind. She silently recited something in her heart and suddenly appeared on the mountain again. Thinking about that place again in my heart, the next second, she appeared in that space again. Song Ning's face was full of disbelief. After being unbelievable, there was great joy, as I tried in and out several times. With this thing, this rabbit is easy to talk about. Finally, today was a lucky day. Song Ning didn't want to waste it, so she wandered around nearby and gained a lot. These things should be enough for their family to eat for a few days. Coming down from the mountain, it's getting late and returning late. Song Dehai and Lu Yuelan probably have to worry. After all, she is her own daughter. Even if she doesn't look like anything, I don't want her to really lose her life. Since she has occupied this body, she will try her best to be a qualified Song family and take care of Song Dehai and Lu Yuelan. On the way back, I met many people who were going home. When I saw her, I either whispered behind her back or pointed at her. She knew she was a celebrity in the village now, a negative example, but ignored it. She was very hungry now and just wanted to go home for dinner. Suddenly, a sharp voice exploded in my ear. Isn't this the second daughter of the Song family? Song Ning didn't want to pay attention, but the person stopped her directly. Song Ning looked up and saw several young girls. Although they were as beautiful as flowers and jade, they were all black and thin, without any hint of water spirit. She knows this person, and they are also considered dead enemies with the original owner. The Wang family girl who lives at the entrance of the village also likes Zhou Ling'an, so the two of them looked at each other and even had a fight before. Everyone, come and take a look. The second daughter of the Song family has come out. With this voice, many people around turned around to look at the excitement. Oh, I heard you broke your head. It's all over so soon. Many people in the village like Zhou Ling'an, and now they all come to see Song Ning's jokes. I don't even look at what I am, I dare to think of Zhou Ling'an. Wang Tsuetsue looked at her with resentment. You're really stubborn. It's been so long, and even if you don't pee and take care of yourself, you still won't give up. Zhou Ling'an is already a scholar now, why would he like you? Just as I woke up, I ran out. It shouldn't be that I fell in love with another company, let's go seduce them. For a moment, everyone around burst into laughter. Despite having a childish and innocent face, he had a sharp and sarcastic appearance. I just came out to see if there were any wild vegetables that could be dug back a bit. I didn't expect to meet such enthusiastic villagers again. Song Ning was very calm and not angry. Song area, you shameless person, Zhou Ling'an won't take notice of you. Wang Tsuetsue lightly raised the corner of her mouth, feeling somewhat proud. With a puff sound, Song Ning burst out laughing. That's right. He doesn't like me, can he still like you? I heard that last time you wanted to meet Zhou Ling'an, but he didn't even look at you. At least, I got closer to Zhou Ling'an. You. Wang Tsuetsue's eyes turned red with anger. You're shameless. Although Song Ning's appearance is not much better now, this Wang family girl is even darker than her, and she doesn't look as good looking as Arya. However, she is 2 years older than Arya, so her whole figure looks fuller. Song Ning reached out his hand and revealed the wild vegetables he had pulled out. He said sadly, "Alas, my family can't cook anymore. I just wanted to come out and pick some wild vegetables." "You're so idle, I think you're already full. It seems that the Wang family still has surplus food. They're all from the same village. Why don't you borrow some from my house?" She was originally a 12-year-old girl, but she fell and suffered a head injury. Now she looks extremely pitiful. Upon hearing this, Wang Tsuetsue immediately nervously looked around. These words should not be spoken recklessly. At this moment, even if there is surplus food at home, who dares to speak up? Isn't that causing trouble for the family? Moreover, in recent years, things have not been good. Grain is the most precious thing, and one cannot borrow anything. Song Ning's sudden display of weakness left Wang Tsuetsue somewhat at a loss. Pooh, what a bad luck. The original owner's character is well known in the village, and the onlookers are also afraid of offending her, so they all scatter. After all, Wang Tsuetsue is only a 14-year-old girl. What tricks can she use? She just wanted to curse a few words to vent her anger. As everyone dispersed, she was afraid that Song Ning would ask her for food, so she gave her a glare and quickly turned around and left. With a slight sigh, Song Ning turned around and walked towards home. Although the injury on her head was not serious, it was not yet healed, and coupled with the hot weather, she felt dizzy all the way back. There's not much medicine to give her now. I hope she won't get infected or leave scars, otherwise she'll have to cry to death. Thinking of this, Song Ning reached out to touch the wound on her forehead, not knowing if it was her illusion. She always felt that the wound seemed to be smaller, but still slightly painful. Without much thought, Song Ning rubbed her head and returned home. However, before entering the room, she heard voices coming from inside. "Head of the household, why don't you eat some?" was the voice of Lu Yuelan. "Arya has just woken up and her health is not good. Let's leave it for her." "But you haven't eaten anything for a whole day, and if you keep going like this, you may not be able to endure it," Lu Yuelan worried. "There's only this little thing left at home, let's put it aside. A handful of wild vegetables is eager to be divided into 10 meals. If you eat all of them, you will go hungry for the next meal. Although there is not much food, at least there is still some hope." The original owner didn't care if there was anything to eat at home. Anyway, regardless of whether it was good or bad, she always had something to eat at home first. Song Ning pursed her lips, feeling uneasy upon hearing these words. She had never worried about a single bite in her past life, and now even half a bowl of wild vegetables is saved by someone else's mouth. Song Ning sighed and walked slowly to the door. Upon seeing Song Ning return, the couple quickly stood up and Lu Yuelan stepped forward to coax her, saying, "Arya is back, hungry. Mom, go and heat up the food in the bowl for you." Speaking, he picked up the bowl and headed towards the stove. Song Ning entered the room without speaking and sat directly at the table. Previously, when Song Arya returned home, if she didn't go well or didn't see any hot food, she would definitely get angry and scold her parents before she could calm down. But since returning just now, Song Dahai and his wife have remained silent, looking at each other with confusion. Song Ning still didn't touch the bowl of dark wild vegetables on the table. She was grateful that she had just climbed the mountain, otherwise she would have gone hungry all day today. Several villages in the surrounding area, including Nanshan village, have been affected by the disaster for several years. In the past, some wild vegetables could still be dug from the mountains, but over time, they have also been dug for a short time. Now, it is not easy to find these wild vegetables. Song Ning's expression was faint, and then under the noses of Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan, she took out a wild chicken. Chapter 3. Not dreaming. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The sun is setting westward, and as dusk approaches, it is time to cook, but the village has actually become quiet. Since the village was hit by a disaster, crops can no longer grow in the fields, and the villagers don't have much work to do. In order to save food, many people stay at home and don't go out. If you move less, you eat less, and the Song family is no exception. Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan were still shocked by the wild chicken that appeared out of thin air. Song Ning spoke up and said, "This is what I caught on the mountain today, ready to give to Zhou Ling'an." Upon hearing these words, Song Dahai and his wife regained their senses, and their excited hearts instantly cooled. They know that their daughter likes the youngest son of the village chief's family, and if there is anything at home that is missing, it must be taken by their daughter. In the past, there wasn't anything particularly good at home, but this time, it was just a wild chicken. Even people like Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan, who have a good temper, are truly heartened to hear these words. But Zhou Ling'an doesn't like me. Last time, it was my daughter's fault, and she also wants to understand. She has given up on him. The couple glanced at each other with confusion. Zhou Ling'an looked down on Arya, and they all knew about it. They had advised her before, but her daughter just didn't listen. She talked too much and even complained about their nagging. Every time I get angry with Zhou Ling'an, I get angry when I come back. Don't worry, parents. My daughter won't be foolish again in the future. If we have good food, let's eat it ourselves. Tonight, we'll eat this chicken. Lu Yuelan's voice trembled and she said, "Eat, eat. Not to mention being a wild chicken at home, I haven't even seen a wild chicken feather in all these years. Wild vegetables have become a common occurrence in the family, and it's not bad to have 2 meals of wild vegetables a day. Dad and Mom, it's been a while since we've had enough to eat. My daughter also wants to eat meat. Let's do chicken tonight." Seeing Song Ning speaking seriously, Lu Yuelan didn't dare to ask any more questions. She picked up the wild chicken on the table and prepared to pluck and stew it. Now there is air leakage on all sides of this house, and there is a slight smell that immediately drifts out. While Lu Yuelan was still plucking her hair, Song Ning stood up and said, "Dad, let's block this room a bit. There is a lot of thatch and firewood piled up in the yard, so it's a bit of a hassle. Besides, their house is a bit off-center, and there's only one neighbor nearby. There aren't many people outside now, so it shouldn't be a problem." Although Song Dahai was a bit limp, he had a lot of strength and soon piled up the thatched firewood outside the wall. After finishing it and returning to the house, Lu Yuelan was already stewing a wild chicken, but she divided the chicken in half and put the other half away. "Mom, half a piece is not enough. It's all stewed." Lu Yuelan was surprised. What would she eat tomorrow if she stewed such a big wild chicken? Is this finally something decent to eat? Just finish it in one meal. Lu Yuelan looked at Song Dahai, who nodded and said, "Just listen to Arya. Wild chickens are not as fat as domestic chickens, nor can they extract chicken oil. There are no seasonings, sauces, or salt at home, so they are chopped into pieces and directly boiled in a pot with water." Song Dahai squatted down to make a fire, occasionally glancing into the pot, which made him swallow water hard. A fragrance slowly emanated from the pot, although there was still a fishy smell that seemed to be absent. Song Ning couldn't help but let out sour water in her stomach. This smell makes the air in the whole room fragrant, making people unable to resist licking their tongues a few times. The pot was boiling with a gurgling sound, emitting hot air, and a richer flavor spread throughout. The family stared eagerly at the pot, watching as time was running out. Lu Yuelan poked the chicken with her chopsticks and finally cooked it. Quickly picked up a bowl and handed a chicken leg to Song Ning. Song Ning was taken aback for a moment, then took the bowl but didn't move. "Let's leave this for now and eat together later," he said. Lu Yuelan eagerly scooped the whole chicken out of the pot, but after placing it on the table, no one moved their chopsticks. Song Ning looked at Song Dahai, then at Lu Yuelan, and took the initiative to put 2 chicken legs in a bowl and handed them to the 2 of them. "Dad and Mom, you work hard and eat chicken legs." Lu Yuelan was flattered and shook her hands. She picked up the chicken legs and put them in Song Ning's bowl, saying, "You eat this, Mom won't eat it." "I don't like to eat chicken legs," he said, picking up a chicken wing from the bowl and laughing, "I like to eat this." The couple's stomachs have been barking several times, but they still hesitated and didn't move their chopsticks. They looked at the chicken legs in the bowl with straight eyes. "Dad and Mom, if you don't eat anymore, I'll give these things to Zhou Ling'an." As soon as these words were spoken, Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan couldn't resist. "Now my daughter has finally come to terms with it, but she can't go back to her old way. Although this wild chicken doesn't even have a salty taste, it's really the best thing to eat in the world. Even though the weather is hot now, drinking a bowl of hot chicken soup and sweating profusely is truly a supreme pleasure." Song Ning was afraid that Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan would be frugal, so she said, "Dad and Mom, you guys should eat more, and we won't be hungry in the future." According to the original owner's memory, this family has not been exposed to meat and fish for some years. They eat wild vegetables all day and their faces turn green. "It's been a long time since we last ate meat, and Song Dahai and his wife have almost forgotten what the meat tastes like. As soon as the meat enters their mouths, it never stops." But Lu Yuelan quietly put down her bowl, licked her lips, and stopped eating. "Mother, why don't you eat?" Song Ning asked. Lu Yuelan smiled and said, "Mom is full. You and your father should eat more. Such a good thing, how can it really be eaten as food and kept for my daughter to eat?" She was also afraid of eating too much today, so she remembered the taste and kept her mouth sharp, so she wouldn't be able to eat wild vegetables in the future. Song Ning couldn't see it and pretended to be angry. "Mother, didn't I say that? We won't be hungry anymore. This wild chicken was brought by our daughter to eat for you and father. Let's eat it open. But if you don't eat, then I'll take it to the village chief's house later. Mother eat, mother eat." She quickly filled another bowl of chicken soup and sandwiched several pieces of chicken, afraid that Song Ning would really take them away. This meal made the whole family sweat profusely. After eating, the 3 of them sat in a daze for a long time. Looking at the bowl in front of her with no soup left, Lu Yuelan sighed, "I'm just dreaming." Their family has been without food for several years and has been eating wild vegetables for several years. However, they suddenly ate so well today, as if they had just finished today. "Master, give me a pinch." Lu Yuelan had no real feeling, always feeling like everything was just an illusion. Song Dahai was also confused, and really grabbed Lu Yuelan's arm. Lu Yuelan felt pain and murmured, "It's not a dream, really not a dream. Dad and Mom, don't worry, my daughter will definitely make you live a good life." Chapter 4. The Roof is Gone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After eating, the sky gradually darkened. Today's meal is considered the best that the Song family has eaten in recent years. Although I didn't eat meat often before the disaster, at least I would buy some during festivals to taste it. It's really the first time I've opened my mouth to eat like today. Hiccup. Song Ning let out a full hiccup and smiled contentedly as she touched her stomach. The whole family ate a bit too much today, and for the first time, they went to the yard to eat in the dark. When I go to bed, it's not until 10 p.m. in modern times. Before going to bed, Song Ning wanted to take a shower, but today she was sweating all over and feeling very uncomfortable. But this Nanshan village has been dry for several years now. Every household used to have wells in their yards, but now they have all seen the bottom. The current daily water needs to be picked from the well at the east end of the village, which is currently the only water source in Nanshan village. Living nearby is okay, and it's also convenient to carry water every day. But the Song family lives in a remote area, and it's not easy to go there. Song Dahai's legs and feet are not convenient, and he's exhausted from going back and forth. So now, besides the water he eats, everything else at home can be saved. Anyway, on my first day here, I'll just make do with it. I've been suffering from drought for several years, and it's already good to not run out of water yet. Just when it was time to sleep, Song Ning still froze. Is the black bedding on the bed, with no visible background, for her? I touched it and it seems like it hasn't been washed for a long time. I feel like this blanket is 2 degrees thicker. However, this is also the only cotton bedding in the family now. The weather is warm now, so there is no need to cover the blanket. Song Ning extended 2 fingers, gently pinched the corner of the blanket, and threw it aside. Finally lying in bed, although she tried to ignore the sweat all over her body, the bed made her lower back ache. Although there is a mattress on the bed, it is the same as a blanket. It has been some years, and the hard one is no different from the wooden board underneath. After tossing and turning all night, I finally fell asleep. Just after falling asleep for a while, there was a sudden scratch on my face, and my body also felt uncomfortable. Blindly opening his eyes, he was stunned for a long time before realizing that the roof was gone. There was a gust of wind outside, and as it grew stronger, the thatch on top couldn't hold up and was blown away. I got up from the bed in a daze and heard the sound of opening the door. Area. Lu Yuelan touched the darkness and came to the bedside, holding Song Ning in her arms. She pulled off the hard iron-like bedding from the bed. The thatch on the roof has fallen everywhere, making it impossible to sleep on the bed. In no time, Song Dahai also ran in. 3 thatched cottages, the place where Song Ning lives near the stove has not been affected yet, and no other place has been spared. The sound of whooshing was so loud that the entire thatched cottage swayed along. After this experience, Song Ning understood that what they needed most now was not anything else, but a place to stay. It's okay now it's summer. If it were winter, wouldn't it be possible to die? However, these days are indeed eerie. In the big summer, it's windy even if it doesn't rain, which is not a good omen. Lu Yuelan hugged her daughter in her arms and gently patted her back, saying, "Arya, let's sleep a little longer. It's still early before dawn." The family leaned together and squinted for a while, until it was almost dawn when the outside wind gradually dissipated. In summer, it's early morning and people get up early. Last night's strong wind damaged several houses, so as soon as the day broke, the village became lively. Song Dahai came along and took a ladder to repair the roof. Lu Yuelan stood on the ladder, helping to pass the thatch. "Dad and Mom, be careful," Song Ning shouted while holding the ladder below. Song Dahai's legs and feet are not agile now, and Song Ning is afraid that he will fall off if he can't stand steadily. The thatched grass is soft and collapsed, making it look unsafe. The family was busy when a girl's voice rang out from outside the courtyard. "Uncle, Grandma asked you to come over." Upon hearing this, Song Ning turned around and saw a little girl who looked about the same age as her, possibly due to long-term malnutrition. She was not tall and skinny. Song Ning recognized her as the 3rd daughter of her second uncle's family. Before the roof of his own house was finished, Song Dahai responded, "I got it, I'll go over in a moment." Song Sanya looked at Song Ning staring at her all the time, snorted, and couldn't help but say, "What are you looking at? You don't want to steal anything again, do you?" Song Arya and Song Sanya are about the same age. Initially, they had a good time playing together, but later Song Sanya insisted that Arya stole her things and asked her to compensate. But Arya insisted on not stealing, and their relationship deteriorated afterwards. In addition, since the Song family split up before, Arya heard a lot of bad words about her uncle's family, and when she saw Sanya afterwards, she didn't have a good expression. Seeing that Song Ning didn't react, Sanya shouted, "I'm asking you something. Knocking your head makes you mute." "I didn't see anything," he said, then turned his head not to look at her. Sanya became angry, but couldn't do anything about Song Ning. She stomped her feet, turned around, and ran east. Song Dahai got down from the ladder and returned it to Uncle Li next door. He came back and said, "You guys go back to your house first. Dad, go to your grandmother's place to take a look." Song Dahai hurried to the old house, and as soon as he entered, he saw his mother with a cold face, not looking at him with a straight eye. However, Song Dahai also got used to it and asked calmly, "Mom, what do you want me to do?" Li Guixiang snorted coldly, and as soon as she spoke, she began to criticize, "I just called you to come. How long has it been since I last came? Why, I can't handle you now, this old lady." "That's right, there was a strong wind all night last night, and all the shacks in the yard were blown down. When Big Brother came in, he didn't see it. Big Brother, since we split up, he didn't take this place seriously anymore." Before Song Dahai could speak, Zhang's second daughter in-law beside her spoke in a strange tone of yin and yang. Song Dahai took a deep breath and said, "Mom, don't be angry. The roof of my house was blown away by the wind last night, and I just finished it and came over." Li Guixiang's sharpness and harshness are well known in all corners of the country. Not only to others, but also to her own eldest son, she exudes a harsh demeanor. Song Dahai is clumsy and not as good at coaxing as his two younger brothers, so everyone in the family thinks that the eldest brother is not as considerate as the second and third brothers. Li Guixiang, who was also born from a mother's womb, didn't have a good word for her eldest son. "Isn't the second and third younger brothers still here? When I'm not here, I can let them hold on for now." Song Dahai is filial, but as time goes on, he always feels uncomfortable. "What are you saying?" Li Guixiang was unhappy. "You don't know, your second and third younger brothers are not made of this kind of material." Li Guixiang opened her mouth and said it fluently. When they could still grow crops in the past, Song Irai and Song Sanhai were not suitable for farming. Song Dahai was exhausted to the death, but the two brothers sat under the eaves to cool down and went out to fetch water. Their strength was too weak and they were not the same material. Even when they built these houses, they stood by and watched. But after all, it was his own mother. Song Dahai didn't want to make his mother angry, he just did some work. He was still able to do it, so he didn't speak anymore and silently left the yard to start working. On the other side, Lu Yuelan was tidying up the house. Last night, she scraped the thatch all over the house, leaving it in a mess. Song Ning moved a small stool and sat in front of the door, looking at the scene at home, thinking about how to make money. Going up the mountain to find food is not a long-term solution, we must do something to make a living and survive. But this Nanshan village is so poor that it definitely won't work in the village anymore. Now, only the salesperson who carries the burden occasionally comes, and there is no business at all. We can only go to the town to try our luck. Just as he was thinking about it, a man in tattered clothes suddenly ran over in a panic and said, "Arya, go and see your father quickly." He was hit in the head by Li Guixiang. Chapter 5. Eccentricity. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Upon hearing this, Song Ning suddenly stood up, ignoring the willow moon orchids in the room, and ran alone towards the old house. Song Ning arrived at the entrance of the old house, and before she could enter, she saw a scene that made her eyes crack. Song Dahai covered his head and sat on the ground with a bloody face, while the remaining members of the Song family stood aside, watching jokes that were irrelevant to them. Song Ning ran over with a calm face and said, "Dad, how are you?" Except for the injury on his head, Song Dahai looked completely intact. Song Dahai gently shook his head and said, "Don't worry, Dad is fine. What's the use of asking you if you can't do even a small thing well?" Li Guixiang became angry when she saw Song Dahai's family. "I said, Arya. If you don't take your father back quickly, it's not unlucky." According to the memory of the original owner, Song Ning still knows some about the affairs of the Song family. As the eldest in the family, Song Dahai was not favored by his parents and went out early to work and support the family. Song Yirai and Song Sanhai were idle every day. I couldn't keep any of the money I earned through hard work, and it was all plundered by my parents and younger brother. Father and mother took the hard-earned money of their eldest son and married their second and third sons, but they only cared about the life and death of Song Dahai. Later, Song Dahai's father passed away, and all the heavy and tiring work in the family was left to Song Dahai alone. I am exhausted every day, but when I return home, I don't even have a mouthful of hot water. Song Dahai worked tirelessly to raise this big family, but the Song family did not regard him as a person. Later, Song Dahai finally took a daughter-in-law and emptied everything before taking out 1 or 2 silver coins. The people of the Song family still dislike him for spending too much and say that if they had known it was so expensive, they wouldn't have married Song Dahai anymore, wasting 1 or 2 silver in vain. But when the Song Yirai brothers married their wives, each of them spent 3 taels of silver. Song Dahai has his own small home and knows how to save money for himself. He keeps some of the things he brings back for Lu Yuelan and gives the rest to Li Guixiang. But Li Guixiang is not satisfied. She thinks that after earning money, she won't give it to her mother or daughter-in-law, which is another argument. Later, seeing that Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan had a good relationship, he began to sow discord and arranged Lu Yuelan in front of Song Dahai to be useless, even encouraging Song Dahai to beat his wife. Although Song Dahai was honest, he still understood some truths. As Li Guixiang became more and more unreasonable, he gradually stopped listening. Li Guixiang saw that her son was gradually losing heart with her, so she spread all her grievances on Lu Yuelan's head and took advantage of Song Dahai's absence to engage in various discussions with her daughter-in-law. When Lu Yuelan was at her mother's house, she was not well liked and had a weak personality. She was no match for her mother-in-law, and Song Dahai was not at home. She did all the dirty and tiring work. Finally, the first child was exhausted and gave birth forcefully. This incident also became the trigger for Song Dahai's separation. Song Dahai, who was so big, rebelled against his mother for the first time. No matter who tried to persuade her, it was difficult to do so. He was determined to split up. In order to smoothly divide the family, I gave all the houses I had worked hard to build to my younger brothers, and left all the things in the house to my mother and younger brother. I didn't want to go through any separate affairs. Although the Song family unfortunately lacked such a daily labor force to work for them, they were delighted to hear that Song Dahai didn't want anything. After dividing the family, although they were still poor, they at least had their own nest. I just thought I could live a better life, but the old house is haunted. As long as Song Dahai has something good that Li Guixiang knows about, he will immediately come and ask for it. If he doesn't give it, he will lie on the ground and throw tantrums, saying that his eldest son and daughter-in-law are not filial and mistreat her as an old woman. Song Dahai still wants face, as long as it's not excessive, he can also let it go. Later on, the years were not good, and the family became increasingly poor. Those who stuttered were good, but Li Guixiang finally came to her door less often. However, every time she worked, Song Dahai was still indispensable. "Master!" Lu Yuelan exclaimed in surprise and rushed into the yard, quickly rushing towards Song Dahai's side. "I'm talking about the ocean, but you're becoming even worse off. You can't even fix a shack now, and you've injured yourself. What else can you expect from you in the future? This shack can also be used as a house in the yard. What should you do if you knock it down now? I don't want too much from you. 101, bring it now." Li Guixiang said confidently. Upon hearing these words, Song Ning laughed angrily. Occupying the house built by Song Dahai, he has been using Song Dahai's hard-earned money for years. This shack was built by Song Dahai himself. Today, Song Dahai was injured while working for them, and now he still has the face to ask for money. Which of the things in this yard wasn't earned back by Song Dahai? Alright, now the lion is really asking for money. Since that's the case, then don't blame her for not showing mercy. Mom, look at Dad, Song Ning said calmly. Lu Yuelan nodded with tearful eyes and said, "Ah." Grandmother said, "Let our family compensate 101. Song Ning asked coldly. This shack has been around for some time now. The sea is my son, and my old lady doesn't want much either. 101 is enough. Li Guixiang held the head of the family's money, her eyes full of calculations. Yeah, Arya, my mother is your own grandmother, my eldest brother's own mother, not an outsider, otherwise it would be more than 101, Zhang Shi, Song Erai's daughter. Law, helped on the side. Song Ning sneered and said, "Is that right? A shabby shack with a few pieces of wood and some thatch can be done for 101. I've never seen such a mother before." Li Guixiang had a stern face and frowned, feeling that something was wrong with her today. This shack can be considered a room. In summer, there are also people living inside. If you knock down a room, you'll have to pay 100 cents, right? Song Ning sneered and said, "Since you're saying that, then we need to figure it out. The house you are currently living in was built by my father, and the yard was also repaired by him. Also, you said that this 101 shack was built by my father back then. Oh, by the way, and the clothes my grandmother is wearing now were all bought with my father's money. Throwing away those small changes, there must be 10 taels. When do you plan to give the money?" Upon hearing these words, Zhang exploded and said, "The big brother in the courtyard of this house said he didn't want it anymore. Why should he pay? So, are you admitting that these things belong to my dad? Since it's my dad's, it will be mine from now on. My dad promised to give it, but I didn't agree." Li Guixiang was instantly angry and said, "You little slut who lost money, you're as shameless as your mother. You're coming to me for money." She took off her shoes and was about to pull them away. Song Dahai immediately stood up and stood in front of Song Ning. Song Ningxi was not afraid and said, "If you don't want to repay these 10 taels of silver, you can use the 101 to pay for my father's medical expenses. I'm sorry, there's no way to ask me for money." Song Ning stepped forward to support Song Dahai and said coldly, "My father broke his head at your house. It's your responsibility. If we don't pay, I'll have the county magistrate preside over justice. By then, it won't be more than 101. I don't know if my cousin's marriage can still be guaranteed." Song Rui, the son of the second wife of the Song family and also the first grandson of the Song family, was pampered and raised since childhood. After growing up, he found a job in the town, and now he is the hope of the whole family. Song Rui is also 17 years old this year, and his family is busy talking about his daughter. Law. He heard that he has seen many people but has not succeeded. In the end, he unexpectedly fell in love with the daughter of his own boss's family. At this moment, the Song family is really proud. I heard that there is only one daughter in that family. If Song Jun really marries that girl, the entire shop will be his. The Song family will never allow such a great future to be truly ruined by 101. Arya, are you crazy? Zhang widened her eyes. Our whole family is counting on Royer. If you dare to go, if Royer develops in the future, you won't think of any benefits. Who cares? You just say whether to give or not. Song Ning said coldly. Li Guixiang almost fainted, and she said that the loser in the big house was not a good thing. Now she wants to sue her grandparents and uncles in court. Since you don't want to, then it's easy to handle. Let's wait and see each other at the court. With that, he helped Song Dahai and was about to leave. Chapter 6. Spring comes with dried trees. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Zhang's teeth are almost shattered. Song Rui is her son and the pride of their second wife. She will still rely on this son to live a good life and not let Song Arya, this lowly girl, be ruined. Big brother, Arya, you guys wait first. Zhang turned her head to look at Li Guixiang and whispered, "Mom, I see this money, why don't we give it to them?" "No way. Why did you give that slut a discount?" Li Guixiang gritted her teeth. "Mother, if they don't give it, they'll have to file a lawsuit. What if it really ruins Jun'er's marriage? Jun'er, you've grown up and you can't ignore it. Even a loser wouldn't dare to let it go. But what if? Li Guixiang can't even guess Song Ning's temper now. If she really goes to court, her grandson's future will really be over. Even if Li Guixiang is no longer willing, her grandson is her beloved child with a bright future, and she cannot really ignore it. After hesitating for a while, I finally reluctantly returned to the house and took out 100 won. Zhang looked at the 100 won and her heart was dripping with blood. She secretly swore that once her son developed, she would never let Song Dahai's family live a better life. Song Ning took the 100 won and was extremely happy, automatically ignoring the look in Li Guixiang's eyes as he wanted to eat her. Song Ning held the money in her hand and counted it. Li Guixiang is not worth believing. What if she took less from her? After counting the money, Song Ning looked up at Li Guixiang for a while. Li Guixiang was caught off guard when Song Ning pulled a necklace off her neck. If I remember correctly, this necklace should be my mother's, right? At this time, besides the young girl who wants to get married, who else has this thing hanging around their neck? Everyone is afraid of being stolen. Li Guixiang wore this necklace around her neck every day to show off her age. At first, my family was poor, and Song Dahai never bought anything for Lu Yuelan. I was originally going to buy a hairpin, but the hairpin was too expensive. In the end, I chose a slightly cheaper necklace, which Song Dahai had saved up for a long time to buy. It's just that Lu Yuelan hasn't been with her for a few days when she was scolded by Li Guixiang for being indecent, saying that there's no village daughter.in.law who dresses up all day and wears these things. Lu Yuelan didn't understand either. After being scolded by her mother.in.law like this, she dared not wear it anymore, and then the necklace disappeared without a trace. My mother cried for several days because she lost her necklace. Unexpectedly, she was with you. You loser, this is my thing. She was about to snatch it back. Song Ning flashed and smiled, my mother has been searching for this thing for a long time, no wonder she can't find it. It turns out that it was stolen by your Song family. TSK, grandmother. Now that my cousin has made a name for himself, if you want to dress up and let him buy it, this stolen thing will be a bit shameless. Besides, even at this age, we still have this leisure time. Is it difficult to do it? It's just a withered tree and we want to find another grandfather. Li Guixiang was already quite angry with Song Ning, and these few words immediately hit her heart. She didn't catch a breath and fell straight back. Before leaving, Song Ning left a message saying, by the way, Auntie, if my grandmother wakes up and tells her that my father is seriously injured and probably needs to be taken care of for the rest of his life. He won't be able to work for the past year and a half. If he still needs to show his face in the future, don't come knocking on the door. A family of 3 had not yet walked far when they heard insults in the yard. Song Ning was not angry, but instead smiled. Lu Yuelan's face turned pale with shock, and she held on to Song Dahai, unable to speak for a moment. Song Ning still didn't trust Song Dahai's injury, so she went to the neighboring village with her people to see a doctor and took some medicine. When she got home, it was getting late and Lu Yuelan was busy taking care of Song Dahai, but she didn't pay attention to Song Ning. Song Ning took out another wild chicken from the space and placed it on the table. The whole family didn't eat in the morning, coupled with not sleeping well last night and staying at the old house for so long, it must be tiring and hungry. She originally intended to share some of the burden for Lu Yuelan, so she came for lunch, but when she opened the water tank, she saw the bottom inside. Now that Song Dahai is injured, he must be unable to carry water. Song Ning has made a mistake. Suddenly, as if thinking of something, I took a broken bowl from the stove and flashed into the space. She has a spring eye in this space, which comes in handy at this time. The water in the spring kept gushing out, and Song Ning reached out to scoop up some. Take a sip, fresh and sweet, top-notch mountain spring water. Coming out of space, afraid that Lu Yuelon would ask, they didn't directly pour water into the water tank. Instead, they put more than half of the pot in another pot, which was enough for them to eat and drink today. After draining the water, Lu Yuelon happened to come in and saw the wild chicken on the table. She didn't feel any strange anymore, so she picked up the chicken and walked towards the stove. Arya, are you hungry? Mom will cook for you. How is Dad? Take a break, I'll go call him later when we're having dinner. Lu Yuelon glanced at her daughter twice more, and the haze in her heart immediately swept away most of it. Her daughter has really grown up, and how did she know these things before? In the past, I used to stay at home all day and just leave after eating, so I wouldn't take care of all these messy things at home. If it weren't for their daughter today, they wouldn't really know what to do. Taking advantage of Lu Yuelon's cooking, Song Ning took out the bedding on the bed to dry. Now that she couldn't afford a new one, she just made do with it. Now that Song Dahai has been injured and there is no one to work at home, she can only rely on herself in the future. Lu Yuelon stewed the wild chicken and took out a bowl, shouting Song Ning. Arya, send this bowl of wild chicken to Aunt Zhou. Song Ning took the bowl, held it, and walked out the door towards the slope. The Dynasty family is their only neighbor, and because they live nearby, they usually take care of Song Dahai and Lu Yuelon. Thanks to Dynasty, Song Dahai and his wife were able to settle down here. This kindness has always been remembered by the couple. Last night, I only focused on eating for myself and didn't think about it. Today, I realized it. It was close to noon, whether there was anything to eat or not, the villagers also returned home. Dynasty's family is also preparing to have lunch, and they usually only have a couple. Just take a few bites to deal with it, and they are not willing to eat such expensive things. A handful of wild vegetables, mixed with some coarse flour, baked into pancakes, and some pickled vegetables that have been marinated for some years, can also eat 80% full. Just as Aunt Zhou had just set up the dishes, she heard a knocking on the door outside. It's time now, who's still coming? Aunt Zhou muttered as she went out to open the door. As soon as I left the yard, I vaguely smelled the smell of meat and immediately felt like I was overthinking it. At this moment, who else could afford to eat meat? It's good if I didn't starve to death. Aunt Zhou, are you at home? Aunt Zhou recognized Song Ning's voice and quickly stepped forward to open the door. At this moment, something must have happened. Just as soon as she opened the door, she saw Arya standing at the door with a smile, holding a bowl in her hand. She saw that there was actually a bowl full of meat inside. Zhou Auntie thought she had been fooled by it, rubbed her eyes, and looked closer. Isn't it just meat? Chapter 7. Selling Money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aunt Zhou, my mother asked me to bring you some meat. Aunt Zhou was taken aback for a moment, but didn't react for a long time. She thought she had heard the wrong thing. Auntie. Song Ning shouted again, and Aunt Zhou regained her senses. She looked outside and quickly pulled Song Ning into the room. As soon as Song Ning entered the room, he shouted Uncle Li, and put down the bowl. Uncle and Aunt, this was sent by my mother, but we don't have any oil or salt at home. We'll just make do with it. Uncle and Aunt, try it, and I'll go back first. Hey, wait a minute. Aunt Zhou immediately stopped the person and turned back into the kitchen. In no time, the person came out, holding some small paper bags and 2 eggs, and stuffed them into Song Ning's hand. Good kid, you take these back, he said. Auntie, you and Uncle have helped our family a lot on weekdays, and I can't take these. Don't worry, it just happens to be something we have at home. Take it back, otherwise Auntie won't accept this meat. Zhou Auntie pretended to be angry. Song Ning reluctantly accepted the things, thanked him, and ran back home. As soon as Song Ning left, both Li Daniu and his wife were surprised. When did the big brother's family have meat? Their two families don't live far away. How could they not know what's going on in Song Dehai's family? They are so poor that they can hardly afford to eat meat. I think it was hunted on the mountain. Since we brought it, let's try it. Although the Li family can be considered decent in the village, they haven't been exposed to any meat or fish for a long time. A little salt was added and I tasted it. It was soft, delicious, and had a different fragrance. It was really a good thing. After delivering the item, Song Ning returned home and handed it to Lu Yuelan, saying, "It was given by Aunt Zhou." Lu Yuelan opened those small paper bags and saw that they were actually some seasonings for cooking. These things are not cheap now. Aunt Zhou surprisingly brought so many of them, including 2 eggs. Eggs are a good thing, and the villagers don't have much money. They raise chickens at home and rely on eggs to keep their bodies healthy. Pick up the salt, sprinkle a little into the chicken soup, and hide the rest. Alright, let's eat. Lu Yuelan scooped up chicken soup from a bowl and brought the chicken to the next door. She was worried and waited for Song Dehai to finish everything in the bowl before she was willing to leave. Song Ning took a sip of the soup and wondered if it was due to salt. Today's soup was particularly delicious. She drank 3 bowls of chicken soup before feeling full. After dinner, Song Ning looked at Lu Yuelan and said, "Mom, I want to go to town tomorrow." "What are you doing in town?" "Dad is sick now and needs to take good care of himself. My daughter wants to go to the town and buy some food to come back. Although meat is a good thing, eating it all day is not enough. It must be balanced in nutrition." "So what's the deal?" "You're not safe alone, Mom can accompany you," Lu Yuelan worried. "Just stay at home and take care of my dad. I can do it alone." Later, Song Ning went to Li Daniu's house again. Li Daniu's family owned a cow cart, which was bought when the village was not affected by disasters. Back then, the Li family was considered one of the top families in the village. Now that everyone has no farm to grow, Li Daniu relies on this ox cart to support his family. If anyone in the village wants to go to the town, they should make an appointment with their family in advance for a cart. Each person can go back and forth for a copper coin. If they don't have money, they can exchange it for food, which is enough for the couple's food. I made an appointment for a car, and in the evening, Song Ning went into the space to organize the things she found on the mountain. This space is fresh, and the things I found before have not changed at all. They are very fresh. Last time she went up the mountain, she caught 3 wild chickens and a litter of rabbits, as well as some herbs and wild fruits. I have sold all these things and should be able to exchange some money. Nanshan village was not close to the town, and the next day at dawn, Song Ning got up to drive the ox cart. Fearing that people who were not at the old house would come and cause trouble, Song Ning took away all the money left after catching the medicine. As soon as he got into the car, Li Daniu asked, "I only found out that your father was injured yesterday. Are you okay?" "It's okay, it's just a broken head. We need to take care of it for a while. When you go to town, your family will definitely not be busy." "I have already let the family go, so you don't have to worry," Li Daniu comforted. "Thank you very much, Uncle Li." There weren't many people going to town today, only Song Ning and Li Daniu were in the car. The two of them chatted along the way, and time passed quickly. Li Daniu's son is working in the town. Song Ning got off the car and Li Daniu rushed to see his son. The two agreed to meet at the place where they got off the car. This is Song Ning's first time in town. It's still early, but the streets are already bustling with people and there are many food stalls. Song Ning got off the car and headed straight for the pawn shop. She inquired and found out that most pawn shops here accept everything. Take out the mountain goods found on the mountain and directly enter the pawn shop. There aren't many people in the pawn shop yet. As soon as the guy saw her go in, he thought she was here to beg for food. He didn't hesitate to start driving people away and said, "Where did you come from, little beggar? Go somewhere else." Song Ning handed out the things in the basket and said, "I came here to be this one. Do you accept it?" Seeing clearly what was in her basket, the assistant's expression brightened and he immediately said, "Collect, collect." The guy took the things in the basket and carefully observed them before giving the price. 51. Song Ning raised her eyebrows and heard that these mountain goods used to be worth a lot of money in the town, but now this basket of mountain goods is only worth 51. Little girl, you also know the current market situation. In this world, food is the most precious. These things can't be sold at a high price, so we still need these things. Implicitly, I haven't given enough. Nowadays, those who like these mountain goods are mostly wealthy families who are used to eating good food all year round. Occasionally tasting mountain food is also a kind of enjoyment. But this basket of things is only worth 51, she might as well take it back and eat it herself. With this in mind, Song Ning picked up the basket and walked out. "I won't sell it then." The guy originally thought of a little girl who had never seen the world before, but after a few words of deception, he sold it. This basket of things, sold to those wealthy families, was worth a lot of money. Unexpectedly, he just left. But he didn't stop either. There are so many people like this now. If there's really no other way, we'll have to come back later. Song Ning never gave up after leaving the pawn shop, and then went to several pawn shops, offering lower prices one by one. Later, I also asked several restaurants, but they couldn't give me a price. These places usually sell these things directly to wealthy families, which naturally lowers the price. Forget it, let's take it back to our own place to eat, Song Ning sighed. Just as I was about to turn back, a voice suddenly came from behind. "Little girl, wait a moment." Chapter 8. Price Increase. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing this, Song Ning turned her head and saw a well-dressed middle-aged man walking towards her. With a friendly face, he asked with a smile, "Little girl, do I think you're selling mountain goods?" "Yes," Song Ning nodded. "So, I'll give you 101 and I'll take everything in your basket," he said, taking money from his pocket and handing it to Song Ning. Spending money without hesitation, very generous. Handing over the things in the basket, Song Ning asked again, "Uncle, do you want a wild chicken and a rabbit? I also have them here. I just caught them yesterday." As soon as the person heard this, his eyes lit up and he immediately nodded, "What you want, where are you? Can you show me what you want?" "Yes, it's in my basket." Song Ning quietly released the rabbits and wild chickens in the space, took down the backpack, and lifted the cover. In order to avoid suspicion, she specially carried a large backpack out today, covered with a cloth and couldn't see anything. The person eagerly straightened his neck and looked into the basket at the rabbits and pheasants, and immediately became happy. He patted his thigh and said, "Oh my goodness, our young master has been making a fuss about wanting this thing these past few days, but after searching for it for a few days, there isn't one in this town. Isn't this just a coincidence today?" The person was delighted and immediately made a decision, "So, I'll pay 2 taels of silver, and I'll take all these things." That's a good relationship. Song Ning thought to herself that she was worried about not being able to sell it. Immediately, Song Ning handed over the money and delivered the goods, leaving only 1 wild chicken and 2 rabbits, and sold the rest. When the person was about to leave, he also instructed, "Little girl, if you still have this good thing recently, you can still bring it, I still need it." Holding a heavy amount of silver in her hand, Song Ning quickly went to the grain shop filled with joy. The grain shops are now displaying price signs, and upon a glance, the price of grain is outrageously high. In the past, the price of grain was usually a few won per kilogram, but since years of disasters, the price of grain has doubled. Now rice costs 20 won per kilogram, white flour costs 16 won per kilogram, and corn costs 10 won per kilogram. Song Ning's heart sank. The price of grain is now the same day by day. Maybe just after buying it, the price will rise in the next second. But the family ran out of food for too long, and Song Ning didn't care about the money either. She bought 10 pounds each and also bought some rough rice and noodles for a rainy day. Coming out of the grain shop, just a few steps away, the street suddenly became chaotic. Song Ning didn't know what had happened, so she quickly walked to the corner and hid in the deserted alley. Looking at the chaos on the street, I sighed. The world is not peaceful, and I'm not sure what happened again. After the street finally calmed down, I finally crawled out of the alley. Strolling on the street for a while again, I bought almost everything I needed, and my backpack was almost full. When I went back, I passed by the shop where she bought grain and saw that the prices at the grain shop had changed. In a short while, the rice went from 21 to 31. I think the riot just now was related to food. Since the disaster, there have been occasional incidents of grabbing food in the town. The price of only 21 of grain has already deterred most people, and now it has risen again, making it even more unaffordable. My mood suddenly became heavy. It seemed that many people were going to suffer again. On the way back, Daniel spoke less and the atmosphere was a bit heavy. Seeing that Song Ning remained silent, he took the lead in saying, "What's wrong?" Song Ning smiled and said, "It's nothing. Don't worry, the people in our village, even if they don't have food, at least there are still a few mountains that they can't starve to death for now. Although that's the case, if the heavens don't rain all the time, it may not last long. Nowadays, there are not many wild vegetables dug up on the mountain. If this continues, families without food can only go and gnaw on the bark of trees." Thinking of this, Song Ning asked, "Uncle Li, I heard that the court does not have relief grain. Nowadays, there are more and more disaster-stricken areas, and our area is too remote. How can the court manage it?" At first, there was relief food, but it is estimated that the court's food is not enough now. So, will no one care about us anymore? I'm afraid so, but our county magistrate is a good official and has been trying to find a way. Don't worry, there won't be anything wrong, Daniel comforted. The more we talked, the deeper Song Ning's heart sank. In the past, the court had relief provisions, and no matter how much, the villagers could at least receive some. But now the court doesn't care, and in the future, we can only think of our own solutions. However, this news also alerted Song Ning's heart. In the future, no matter what we say, we cannot say that we have food at home. If someone finds out, it can easily lead to disaster. Entering the village, from a long distance, I saw Lu Yuelan standing on the roadside, looking towards the village entrance. Upon seeing this, Song Ning quickly waved her hand. Jumping off the car, he thanked Daniel and turned back home. Lu Yuelan quickly picked up the basket on Song Ning's back, not too light. Entering the room, Song Ning quickly got the old pot off the job and replaced it with a new one. Then I took out the rice, flour, oil, salt, and some seasonings from the basket, and also cut 3 pounds of pork, which was very fat, just right for refining lard. Lu Yuelan was so shocked that she couldn't speak when she saw Song Ning taking out so many things. The 100 won given by my mother in law yesterday, except for the 30.5 won from the medicine flour, there are still 60.5 won left. 65 won, can you buy these things? Has the price of grain in the town decreased? Song Ning smiled and whispered, "It's not that grain prices have decreased, it's me who made money. Didn't I go up the mountain last time? I found a rabbit's nest and some mountain goods. When I left today, they were packed in a backpack and sold for more than 1 or 2 taels of silver." 1 or 2. Lu Yuelan, who is so old, has never seen so much silver before. Arya only made so much money after going there. Sure enough, her daughter is capable. Who says raising a daughter is useless? Who says her daughter is a loser? Her daughter is the best. Mom, let's steam rice for lunch. Hey. With money and food at home, there is nothing more joyful than this. In the morning, Aunt Zhou came over to help and also brought a handful of vegetables. She happened to stir-fry with meat for lunch. Most of the food in Nanshan village is cooked or stewed, and it is rare to stir-fry it in oil. Song Ning roughly explained, and Lu Yuelan understood. In one pot, rice was added and water was added, while in the other pot, vegetables were stir-fried. Lu Yuelan cut the meat and washed the vegetables. According to Song Ning, oil refining began. The white and plump pork, after being put into the pot for less than a while, was refined into boiling hot lard. The oil residue caught is crispy and delicious, making people drool at the sight. Song Ning picked up the bowl of oil residue and handed the largest piece to Lu Yuelan's mouth, saying, "Mom, try it." Lu Yuelan followed Song Ning's movements and ate the oil residue in her mouth, her expression brightening as she said, "It's delicious." Chapter 9. Zhou Ling'an. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pour out the lard from the pot and seal it, then stir-fry the vegetables with the remaining oil. Lu Yuelan started stir-frying the meat according to Song Ning's method. The seasonings were expensive, and Lu Yuelan didn't dare to add more. She only added a little bit of each, but the taste when it was cooked was different. The taste of this stir-fried dish is even more fragrant than yesterday's stewed meat, even Song Dahai lying next door could smell it. The meat and vegetables were stir-fried in the pot, with a fragrant aroma, and Song Ning couldn't wait. Watching the dishes in the pot come out, Song Ning picked up the dishes early and helped Song Dahai in. The rice was in the bowl, and the dishes were also served on the table. The whole family was particularly happy today. Today, they have white rice, 2 dishes, 1 meat and 1 vegetable, and half a small pot of egg vegetable soup on the table. This should be the top food in Nanshan village. Song Dahai smiled and said, "Then let's have dinner." Song Ning and Song Dahai didn't care about anything else, so they lowered their heads and started pounding at the rice. Even Lu Yuelan remained silent today, silently cooking. After a meal, there was not a single vegetable leaf left. The whole family was satisfied and covered their stomachs, eating to the fullest. After just sitting for a while, Lu Yuelan looked at Song Ning and said, "Arya, can we really eat like this now? According to today's eating method, the family will run out of food in a few days. I've been eating so well lately. In just a few days, they're afraid of going back to the days when they didn't even have wild vegetables. How about eating 2 meals a day in the future? Save some food and eat more for a while. At present, grain is so expensive that it cannot withstand such consumption." After careful consideration, Song Ning said, "My mother's words make sense. Today when I went to town, the price of grain increased again." The faces of Song Dahai and his wife instantly collapsed. There was no such good food. This little food was finally obtained by their daughter, and the remaining food in the family must be eaten sparingly in the future. However, don't worry, parents. My daughter will come up with a solution. She can't eat some shaved food like a chicken, she has to work hard in order to be full in the future. Arya, don't force yourself either. Lu Yuelan felt a little sorry. Since Arya woke up with a broken head, there have been many sensible people, but it has also caused some concern for Song Dahai and his wife. It's all because my dad is useless and I couldn't take care of you too. Song Dahai felt a bit disheartened. Dad, don't think so. We are a family. My daughter used to be immature, but in the future, she will also help my parents share the burden. Since Song Ning changed, Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan unanimously believe that Song Ning was previously possessed by ghosts, but now that the Bodhisattva has appeared, her daughter has finally returned to normal. Now hearing Song Ning say these words, my eyes immediately wet. So parents can rest assured that we won't go hungry in the future. After dinner, Song Dahai and Lu Yuelan went back to the next door to rest. Song Ning took out the seeds she had bought in the morning and entered the space. She bought a lot of seeds at the market today. She had long paid attention to the 2 plots of land in her space. If food could grow in the space, her family would not have to worry about not having enough to eat in the future, nor would they have to worry about rising food prices and running out of food. The 2 pieces of land in the space were always empty. Song Ning sprinkled the seeds and scooped some water from the spring to water them. Most of the land in the village is now dry and cracked. Not to mention the crops, even the weeds are not growing anymore. There are no more people growing food and vegetables, only a few households in the east of the village near the well. There is also a small vegetable garden planted in the yard, but the vegetables that grow are not growing because there is no water. Even the seeds she bought are not of high quality, they are dehydrated and withered, and she doesn't know if they can grow anything. After lingering in the space for a while, Song Ning returned to her room, filled the water tank next to the stove, and then headed to the bed, thinking about what she would do to make a living in the future. When she went to the town today, she also made a special trip to the market. There were many people selling things at the market, and the most common thing was food. But now there is a shortage of food, and food is more expensive. 1 course mantu costs 2 won. There are also many stalls on the street early in the morning, and most of them eat food. However, if you want to set up a stall in the town, you need to go early and occupy a good seat. You also have to pay a stall fee every day, which is 5 cents for half a day and 9 cents for more than 3 hours, which is not cheap. If you want to go to the market when there are many people, you have to get up before dawn, and if you go late, you may not get any good seats. But Nanshan village is a bit far from the town, and it takes almost an hour by ox cart. If you want to occupy a seat, you have to go earlier. But as early as this every day, my body may not be able to withstand it. Unfortunately, their family lives in Nanshan village all year round and doesn't know anyone in the town. Song Ning sighed, life is not easy, this matter can only be put on hold for now. Taking advantage of the low crowd at noon, she went into the mountain again. It's cooler in the mountains than in the village, but besides Song Ning, there are actually many people on the mountain. Some even bring their children to dig wild vegetables, but now that the wild vegetables in the forest have been dug up, people can only go deeper. Song Ning climbed up and accidentally saw a small sapling, which was not yet the size of a palm, growing under the cover of a big tree. The leaves had already begun to wilt. The big tree around me has withered away, and this small sapling probably won't live long either. After observing for a while, I realized that the leaves were probably apricot trees. When I was on vacation in my past life, I didn't miss picking these things in the orchard. Song Ning used her hand to scrape the soil next to her, carefully removing the small saplings and quietly placing them in the space. Anyway, she won't live long either. Why don't we let her try it out in the space? If it really works, we can have fresh sweet apricots to eat in the future. Having made up her mind, Song Ning would want to dig up small saplings, such as apples, oranges, and pears, just in case she had them. I walked up again, with nothing else to dig up a few more saplings, but as soon as I took a few steps, I heard a familiar sound coming from behind. I just want to search with you. Don't worry, I'll give you everything I find, and I don't want anything. A young girl followed a young man, her eyes lit up, and almost pounced on him. No need, I like quietness. The man's faint voice rang out, refusing straightforwardly. Don't worry, as long as you let me stay by your side, I will be quiet. The voice dripped softly, which didn't match her appearance. Wang Tsuetsue should have put on her best clothes, combed her hair, and pinned flowers. Although her skin is a bit dark, she has a bit of vitality. If you ignore the hair that hasn't been washed for a long time. That man is also dressed in coarse cloth clothes, but there are no patches on his body. He is clean and his hair is meticulously combed. Who is it? Not Zhou Ling'an. Chapter 10, Really? I don't believe it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhou Ling was a bit impatient, but those 2 words earlier were already the most serious words he could say, and he could only let Wang Tsuetsue wander around beside him. "Brother Zhou, wait for me!" Wang Tsuetsue shouted from behind. Zhou Ling'an strode up like he hadn't heard him. Just behind him, Wang Tsuetsue had not yet shaken off when she met Song Area, who was causing him even more headaches. The last incident left a considerable shadow in Zhou Ling'an's heart. He was a scholar who learned the way of a gentleman. His classmates in the academy were also respectful and polite. Although he grew up in the village, he had never seen a girl like Song Area before, which was really irresistible. Zhou Ling'an felt that he must have had a backlash in his life today, and he shouldn't have come out today. Seeing Zhou Ling'an stop, Wang Tsuetsue turned her body behind her and saw the person she least wanted to see. As soon as she saw Song Ning, Wang Tsuetsue flipped her face faster than flipping through a book. She visibly pulled down her face and gritted her teeth in hatred. Song Ning originally didn't want to talk to these two people, but when she saw Wang Tsuetsue about to eat her eyes, she suddenly changed her mind. What a coincidence, he chuckled lightly. This smile even pricked Wang Tsuetsue's eyes, as she noticed that after a few days of absence, Song Area seemed to have changed a lot, turned white and even looked better. Wang Tsuetsue has always liked to compare with Song Area. The two of them are the closest to Zhou Ling'an among all the girls in the village. Whoever wins has a chance to marry Payan. But it never occurred to me that Zhou Ling'an looked down on anyone. Both of you are very interested. Even if you go up the mountain to pick wild vegetables, you should be inseparable. I really admire it. Fong Li sked twice and scanned between the two. Miss Song misunderstood, we just happened to meet. The words abruptly came to an end, and Zhou Ling'an realized something was wrong and quickly stopped speaking. This statement is more like an excuse, the more the description becomes darker. Wang Tsuetsue saw that Payan had not finished speaking, and thought that Zhou Ling'an was also thinking the same way. She was immediately overjoyed, and even when she looked at Fong Li, her eyes were showing off. Wang Tsuetsue and Song Area have been fighting for so long, and today they can finally feel proud and proud. Song Area, brother Zhou won't like you. Fong Li smiled and said, of course, you two are the most compatible. Zhou Ling'an's face turned black, and now there are still many people nearby who occasionally look at them. Immediately he said, Miss Song, you really misunderstood. Miss Wang and I really met halfway through, not as you thought. Oh, didn't we make an appointment? That expression, that tone, just one sentence. Really? I don't believe it. Wang Tsuetsue's mood at this moment was really fluctuating. She glared at Fong Li, but didn't dare to speak too loudly. In front of Payan, she had to maintain her image. Area, why did you also come up the mountain today? It's not like I heard that brother Zhou was going up the mountain and deliberately followed him, right? Wang Tsuetsue is very interesting. In front of Zhou Ling'an, she is a gentle and considerate little bird, with her voice even silenced. But Song Ning clearly saw her sitting at the door picking her feet, and after picking her feet, she also dug her nostrils. It's a pity that she was the only one to see that scene. Song Ning ignored her and turned to walk up the mountain. Her fruit tree was still waiting for her. Upon seeing Song Ning leave, Zhou Ling'an immediately put his heart back in his stomach and walked towards the side. Nowadays, every household in the village is facing difficulties. Although he is already a scholar, his family is doing better than before. Someone suggested that they move to the town before, but his father is the village chief, so he has to be responsible to Nanshan village. Moreover, although he is a scholar, he has not yet the ability to make the whole family move to the town. Although scholars receive some subsidies every month, these subsidies can vary from time to time, and they may not be reliable. He had intended to take advantage of Shumu's ascent to the mountain to take a look, but unexpectedly encountered such trouble. Just as she took 2 steps forward, Wang Tsuetsue followed behind with a courteous expression on her face and said, Brother Zhou, I have found some wild fruits for you. Zhou Ling'an didn't answer and said calmly, you can keep it for yourself. It's not easy now. It's okay, I'm just willing to help you find it, I'll give you everything. Wang Tsuetsue took a step forward and almost pasted it on. Zhou Ling'an frowned and took a step back, quickly heading to the other side, which was exactly where Song Ning was going. Wang Tsuetsue gritted her teeth tightly, Song area. Song Ning is currently focused on finding small saplings, and whether she can eat fresh fruits in the future depends on these saplings. There are still 2 rabbits in her space, eating grass all day long. In order to slow down her little grass, she also needs to pull some wild grass back. Coincidentally, there happened to be a medicinal herb in the middle of that wild grass. Many people in the village went up the mountain, and to some extent, they all recognized some wild medicinal herbs growing on the mountain. As soon as Song Ning was about to pick them up, he reached out a hand and also grabbed the medicinal herb. Wang Tsuetsue stared at Song Ning, with a slight smile on her lips, but she didn't let go. In the past, the 2 of them often snatched things. In terms of bad intentions, Wang Tsuetsue couldn't compare to Song area, but in terms of strength, area couldn't beat Wang Tsuetsue. Song Ning is too lazy to argue with Wang Tsuetsue and doesn't want this person to trouble her at all. It's not because she's scared, but because Wang Tsuetsue hasn't taken a shower or washed her hair for a long time. The smell is really spicy. This is what I saw first. Wang Tsuetsue's provocative tone made Song Ning even more unable to bear it. So, even if there's a water shortage at home, at least teeth still need to be brushed, right? With this speech, I almost saw her off. What's going on? We're starting to grab it now. Where's Zhou Ling'an? Don't want her own ladylike image anymore. Song area, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. I haven't seen brother Zhou holding back for the past few days, have I? I can't help but catch up now. I'll tell you, brother Zhou belongs to me. Wang Tsuetsue said fiercely. Guess if Zhou Ling'an likes you. Last time, I touched his hand. So far, you haven't even touched the corner of his clothes, have you? TSK, Wang Tsuetsue, are you really good at it? Wang Tsuetsue couldn't bear to hear these words the most. Song Ning only said a few words, which made her eyes red with anger. Just as Wang Tsuetsue was angry, Song Ning also pulled up the medicinal plant. Then Song Ning suddenly stood up and was about to leave. Wang Tsuetsue looked at being played with and immediately got up to grab Song Ning's arm. Wang Tsuetsue was tall and had long arms, almost being grabbed by her. Seeing Song Ning overtaking her, she ran over and reached out her foot, directly tripping her. Song Ning didn't have time to dodge, but grabbed Wang Tsuetsue and was about to fall. Fortunately, there was a tree at hand, and Song Ning quickly hugged it, which prevented her from falling. However, Wang Tsuetsue didn't have such good luck. As soon as Song Ning stood firm, she heard a plop from behind, and the people around her took a cold breath.